to recall Sam's presentation this morning. Goals, objectives, why you're there. It sounds almost like a cliche, but it's why are you online? I mean, as I said, I mostly work in web analytics, and whenever we work on measurement, we ask the question again to companies, why are you online, before we decide what to measure. And I'd say it's the same with social media. Although in my experience, I mostly meet organizations that answer what they used to answer 10 years ago about the web, because I have to be there, and because my competition is there. And what am I going to use that for? I don't know yet, really. So that makes it a bit difficult then to really, establish a strong analytical framework and metrics and KPIs, what have you. So usually they end up using what's out there, what measurement tools come with those applications they're on, and it's usually very simple, because if you all think about social media and I ask you to name me 5, you'll probably stop at 3. You'll probably say Facebook, Twitter, or B2B, LinkedIn, maybe YouTube, which is not a social media, I think. So basically what you're going to do there and how you're going to measure it. But I think there's still some, at least in my environment, at least some, I would say, respectfully unsophisticated approach to social media, because they're just trying to figure that out.
All right. Richard, do you have any thoughts on the corporation, since you're representing the financial end? Am I on?
That's okay, I heard it.
Yeah. So the question, I think I'm more on this mic.
Yeah.
From a corporate end, since you tend to be dealing with the C-levels, what are they looking for from an analytics solution then?
Well, most of them, unfortunately, with regards to social media, don't know. They invest based out of ignorance and the desire to participate, and allow the market to start determining what should they start being able to pull out down the road. They get their feet wet and then start trying to figure out what the value is. In most areas of online marketing, that's true. Then once they've been at it a while, they start becoming more intelligent. But far too many of them I've found in the past have just invested because their competition invests, and they don't develop good KPIs and good measurement values at the start. They develop them after.
Anybody else in the panel want to add on to that? Oh, Marty, of course.
Well, I want to know what the hey I'm there for. I mean, if I'm trying to accomplish something that's a KPI on site, what am I after? Conversion? Am I trying to dilute the CPA? Am I looking for traffic or engagement or comments or impressions, or maybe inbound or outbound traffic to social? If it's off-site, am I looking for universal SERPs prominence or engagement or chatter or cross-pollination where one channel chases another? And how do I want to segment that? I mean, am I looking for segmenting that by geography or what time of day, or loyalty or keyword diversity or attribution? Am I after links or shares or social visibility? Is it brand stuff I'm after or category stuff I'm after? Like, I just want to know what I'm there for and what I am doing. Because if I don't know what I'm after with the entire effort, then I don't have any freaking chance of measuring it all.
Well put. Now, do we all keep up with that, or do we have to play it back in slow motion?
He's got a blog post open here, so give him the link.
He's well prepared.
It's really actually a good one. It's called the SEO KPI KISS chart, 646 classic and emergent metrics.
Okay, out of KISS. I'm going to modify my second question that I had circulated a little bit earlier. To meet Marty's mission statement that just came out, and we'll go to Sean right now and pass over to Michael probably. How many analytics solutions do you find you have to implement, like tools, whether it is cloud, peer index, hash track, whatever it is? How many do you find that you have to implement to get quality information, make rational decisions? Or
just forget it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not into illicit drug use here, but you really do have to roll your own, I think. We interviewed about 100 different companies, and we actually asked them, okay, amongst not all the metrics, but like your top 5 or 10, what are the things that you monitor within social media? across the 100 companies, there was about 46 different core metrics. So I think everybody's needing to land on this silver bullet formula. It just doesn't exist. If I'm an e-commerce business, it's going to be a ton different than a packaged goods business in terms of what I should be measuring. So I love some of the stuff I saw earlier on the Blitz stuff, and you're going, cool. And that could be 60% of the equation, but there's always going to be something in a company where you go, oh my God, my CEO is so interested in that, I'm going to have to ask somebody as opposed to have some type of tool tell me.
So you're saying the infinite number of tools if possible.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if there are 100 good practicing companies out there, not one of them has the same dashboard, or not one of them should have the same dashboard.
Michael?
Well, I think that's fair. I mean, part of the problem is that if you're measuring something that you think is important today, there's a reasonable chance that that thing that you're measuring will disappear tomorrow because Facebook or one of the other providers will say, you know what, we're not tracking that metric anymore. The monthly active user thing you used to have on your dashboard, that's gone. Now it's all about talking about this. So you're always going to have a mix of different inputs into the dashboard that fits your needs as a company. And there's shiny new tools like Blitz Metrics and others coming along all the time. And there will continue to be. I don't think any one vendor has like the best possible solution. It's a bit of a nightmare for the companies that are trying to make money in this space, to be honest, because there are people like me saying do not sign long-term contracts with any sole vendor because you'll sign a contract for the next year and 2 weeks from now you're going to find something shinier that will distract your attention and you're going to want to go over and sign a contract with those guys instead, but you're already committed to this thing.
So it's the, ooh, it's shinier.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you've got, you have to roll your own. You have to sort of look at you have to go back to what Jacques was saying. First of all, figure out what are your objectives as an organization. I mean, this is marketing 101, right? What is it that you're trying to achieve? Let's also forget about measuring the outputs. Getting a stack of likes, getting a stack of Twitter followers, impressions by the pound, those are outputs. Let's look at how do I tie back to actual outcomes, and web traffic, increased traffic to custom landing pages that I've built to promote certain offers on my site, that can be an outcome. I know it sounds a bit like an output, because it's just numbers, but it can be an outcome if you've got people coming to see the stuff that you've served up for them. So look at that and then go and find a whole bunch of different tools, play with them, and pick and mix. Every single dashboard we do for our clients uses probably a minimum of 3 to 4 different tools to input data and built in a way that it's easy for the client to understand.
One thing that, it's great to use multiple tools to start measuring, but one thing that companies do horribly wrong is they change what they're using as a basis for measurement on an ongoing basis. So what happens is they get this metric this month, and the next month they get something different, and the month after that they have something different. And by the end of it, they really don't have a clue what they're looking at because they're looking at 3 different sets of numbers. And I was being a little bit facetious earlier, but the reality is, in the C-suite, they really want to know we invest this much and what's the value to the company at the end of the day. And then you go down through the organization, and different people in the organization have different metrics they'll care about to help them do their job. But if you don't give everybody a baseline which goes from day one forward, they're never going to be able to be accountable.
We have a question back here.
Yeah, actually, that sort of led into my question. I'd like to get this esteemed panel's comments on including the employees into that metric counting. I've heard you talked about some dashboards and that, I agree with Sean. Every once in a while, he says something really intelligent. I love Sean. I just like teasing him. No, but the point was he made a very good point that you got to roll your own. You have to make your own. I think that's true. I'd like to get a sense of their experience or their impression of how do you engage or measure the metrics or monitor your employees' engagement in driving that end goal, that profit. Has anybody had any experience with that?
Go ahead.
Okay, so whenever a marketing team markets anything, there are never stakeholders that are closer to the stew than the inside of the marketing team. And so it always makes sense, or often makes sense, for people who are committed marketers for a company or a cause to take the lead amongst their own community. right? So one of the first things we do if we're walking into a campaign is we find out who the authority users are on the marketing team and if they truly care about the product or not. After that, you're into a swirl of concerns with many companies. Like, we were hired by one of the largest multinationals on earth to compare the global activity of 45,000 employees to other major companies like GE and Philips and companies like that, because they were really concerned to make sure that the groundswell that occurred from their staff did the brand justice and leveraged each of their personal contacts as much as the next brand did. I'm a big believer in mobilizing companies from the inside. Like, it works really well if you have a workforce of like 15 or 20,000 people or 10 to 20 people or whatever to say, and here's the friends and family thing, go tell your mom and your dad. Ultimately, social media that has viral propagation past the immediate circle is about transcending the inside joke. Like, so much of social media is just something that only the most inside people understand. And things truly go viral when it has meaning in the larger world, past the immediate circle. I think that inside employees can be extremely valuable for beginning the process of propagation for something that will appeal to the larger world. How many times have you been with your staff or your clients when they created something and you said, what gives you any indication whatsoever that anybody would want to send this to anybody outside this immediate circle, right? So,
It's more the other thing, isn't it? Most people say, oh my God, this is going to be so great, and it hits social media and nobody cares, right? I find that's more the beltway.
Right, because great social media, ask yourself, is this an inside joke or does this matter to anybody but my most immediate circle? So back to your original question about utilizing and mobilizing internal stakeholders to begin. Listen, I could do that with Facebook ads, I could do it with LinkedIn ads, I could do it with my inside staff. Ultimately, social media that works really well is viral propagation of content that is tooled for the larger immediate community, past the immediate community. And inside marketing stakeholders are a really great place to start that fire. Unfortunately, in big companies, you have a lot of fears surrounding that. Like, raise your hand if your company blocks Facebook at work. Yeah. Okay.
And what's the most common reason they give you? Time waster, right?
Yeah.
And I'll always go back, and I said this how long I've been in this industry, when email first started propagating out, and they wouldn't give email accounts to everybody. I said, do they have a telephone? Yeah. But email's a waste of time. I said, they have a telephone. They can be on the phone talking to their wives, their girlfriends, their boyfriends. Oh, no, they wouldn't do that.
The CC and the BCC failed of email was the first social media, and it still is.
So, let's keep that in mind. I'm going to throw this question first at Michael, because you're talking about the plethora of tools, and I agree. For every client, it's a roll-your-own solution, at least for the dashboard, and you have to have your favorite tools. I'm going to ask, at least 3 of the panelists, I'm expecting the answer on this one. What are your 2 favorite tools that you almost always use, and being clear, almost always use on every account?
I'm going to cheat.
Just 2.
Okay, 2. So the first one I think is an old favorite, Sysomos. They're still good.
Sysomos rocks.
Sysomos does rock, yeah. Even though they got acquired by Marketwire, they've managed to stay good. It's a smart tool. Radian 6 presents better, looks prettier, does all sorts of shiny, fancy-looking graphics. But I find that Sysomos finds more stuff, and the data is potentially more useful. 2 seconds. Sysomos. Sysomos from Marketwire. It's a Canadian product as well, as is Radian 6, actually.
Yeah.
Interesting sort of aside, a lot of the best innovation that's happening in social media monitoring and metrics is Canadian, including, say, the 2 leaders. So Sysomos would be number 1. Number 2, I can't say, Alan, so honestly, this is something I include in everything, because I've only just started wanting to include it, is a product that's currently in beta that everybody in the room should sign up for. There's a thing called Peak Analytics, spelled exactly like it sounds, P-E-E-K, Peak Analytics, coming out of an organization called PQ in the US, that does some really, really clever stuff. I think they're starting to crack some of the most difficult problems of assessing influence and demographic reach and stuff like that marketers are really interested in with social. Peak Analytics.
Sean, you want to take this over?
Well, I guess the baseline is Google Analytics. Everybody knows that, right? I'm a big fan of Systemos now, too. I work with a lot of multinational clients. And if you're working in Canada for, let's say, Ford, you don't care about what Ford's being talked about in Detroit or in Greece or wherever Ford's being talked about. Systemos is about the only other tool I've seen where they can actually parse out, yeah, you know what, those Ford comments are coming from Canada, which is a Canadian company. You're tasked with, you know, what kind of stuff am I producing from a Canadian standpoint. Sam will love this. He'll see this one coming. I'm a big influence fan. You know, who are out there that are the real influencers? Clout, yes, I use that quite a bit. I think it's a great shorthand tool. I don't think it's the end-all and be-all. I think a couple of other ones in terms of influence. I like Twitalizer. I actually looked at Michael O'Connor's, Clarke's Twitalizer. Apparently appeals to 25 to 34-year-olds. So I have no idea. They didn't say. Dysfunctional 25 to 34-year-olds. So piece of information there. I also like Edelman's Tweet Level. I don't know if anybody's used that, but they've got their own in-house tool. And if I want a topic, I can find the top 100 people on that topic very, very quickly by using their tool. So it's kind of tucked in their features somewhere, but I use that as well.
Well, just to point on something, like products like Clout and Twitalizer, what I call individual scoring models, are very useful tools when used properly. The problem is, and I know a lot of people don't like Clout because they changed their algorithm, but everybody changed their algorithm. Yes, Google Analytics has an algorithm behind it and the search. It is, the key point is what Sean did, and I want to stress this, is for finding influencers. You can type a topic in and find out who they think is the most influential, and more important, who other people think is the most influential on that. And that is where they become a great asset. And that, if you were here in the morning at my keynote when I talk about the kindling your fuel, that's when you want to make sure your fuel consists of industry influencers, so that they are there to retweet your content and be your brand advocates.
No, I agree. I think the one thing that it could be an interesting debate too is we can get very purist on a panel like this and say, here's what you should do from a measurement standpoint. The reality is most companies don't spend enough time doing it. I think most companies monitor stuff really, really well. But if you ask most companies, how much time do you actually spend going through your analytics? To a person, most of them will say, yeah, not nearly enough. And I think the reason why we use Clout and other tools is you need shorthands because you're not going to spend 168 hours a week doing kind of measurement stuff,
the
right?
old carpenter analogy, measure twice,
Yeah.
cut once. And
I'm not saying this only because Cloud gave me a perk today either, so that's a
I didn't
little
see
bit of
what-
admission.
I
I got a
know,
shit Quattro razor today, so.
Oh, oof, they're sending it to Canada. Very cool.
Raise your hand if you don't give a rat about clout.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm on the Cloud Squad, so I'm actually one of their influencers,
So
influencing
you're in
them.
support of it, you're not in support.
No, I'm the one
It's fine.
telling
It's a
what they're
great
doing
shorthand.
wrong.
It's a great shorthand tool.
Sean just pretty much nailed it. I mean, this really is an important thing, and I'm not just doing the boring panel consensus echoing thing. I think this deserves to be hovered over a little bit more because it's really important. Not a lot of
Even though it's
organizations.
boring and you're echoing.
Yeah, I know. It'll be an interesting echo.
I'm kidding.
Trust me on this. Not a lot of organizations spend enough time looking at their analytics. Let's be absolutely honest. The elephant in the room, oh God, I hate that cliche. The elephant in the room around analytics is the vast majority of measurement dashboards are produced in order to justify the agency's budget, right? And protect the agency's budget. What you're doing is saying, look, it went up by 16%. We don't know what that means at all, but it went up by 16%, so you must be spending your budget in the right way. Here's the real tool that's missing, that more people should be using, is the analysis. Analytics on its own is just data. If all you're doing is collecting the numbers and presenting them to the CMO and saying, hey look, we rock, it went up 16%, then you're kind of putting the anal back in analytics.
I love that one. I'm going to have to steal that one from you.
You have to look deeper into it and say, okay, so something went up by 16%. Why? Did we say something different from what we usually say? Were we more interesting? Was it because we gave away an iPad? What was it that we did that actually moved things forwards? And let's also look at what we did that moved things backwards. And let's do more of the first and less of the second.
Maybe one comment. One of the problems I see with social media analytics is actually, just back to what you were saying, the concept of influencer. And I'm coming from the social sciences, I look at it from maybe a different angle. But if influence is the ability to make you either change your mind or change your behavior, the mind-changing aspect is pretty difficult to measure on a large scale. So then it's the behavior. So do I make you behave in a certain way? Do I influence you in that regard? And so far, a lot of those tools will look at how many times, for example, someone is retweeted or liked or whatever, actions, counting actions and how many times. And but from a social network theory point of view, I'm not so sure this is the most efficient way to identify influencers. So for example, if usually audience size is a big aspect, a big factor of determining someone, if someone is an influencer. And unless someone retweets you, for example, or share, because at the heart of social network, I think the most important aspect is sharing. This is when the social exchange thing happens. So whenever you say something, if nobody shares it, basically nothing happens. So I'm just wondering if the people who actually share your content are the most important ones, not necessarily the ones with the bigger, largest audiences. They're the conveyor belt. And so far it's been very difficult to identify who those people are and whether they are themselves influencer in their own network, which means that they are also retweeted when they retweet your stuff. And I think we're going to get there in a few years, but I think we'll need to a lot more of understanding of social network and how they behave and social dynamics. So I'm not sure we're there yet.
Okay, we got a question coming up, but I'll make a point on this one. I'm going to play a Michael. The part that's really missing, as you said, is the analysis, and that's the human factor. I've seen people use tools like Twitterlize or Peer Index, Cloud, and they clients, and they go, I'm going to go target this person. Look at how well they're ranking. Look at what their Cloud score is. And then when I go and I dig into what they're tweeting and saying about them, because I go and I do Twitter search, they're actually bad-mouthing them. And all their blog posts are derogatory, but it's resonating. So yes, you may want to target them to have them change their minds, but you definitely don't want to start touting them as, ooh, we got that person.
So 15 years ago, I walked into my first agency gig after being a corporate guy, and the agency team I took over were about to deliver their annual, their measurement report to their big client. I can say the client, actually, it was Compact. They're no longer with us. And it was this like phone book sized deck of clippings, and they were all sitting around patting themselves on the back saying, look how well we did, because last year it was kind of, the like local phone book. This year it's like the whole big national phone book. It's like this. Well, it was the year that Compaq had overtaken DEC. Remember them?
Yes.
They'd acquired DEC, and it had been a hugely negative, badly received acquisition that got them all sorts of crap. 60% of the coverage in this phone book was horribly negative about Compaq, and the PR agency were going, look how wonderful we are, we got all this coverage, And that's exactly the same thing is going on today with misuse of analytics and misuse of the analysis.
Well, as I said this morning, everything's been done before, and they keep repeating the mistakes.
Isn't that what spin and PR is all about?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is.
All right, we got a question here, so let's.
What do you for a living?
I don't know if I'm going a little bit off topic, but Marty said something a little while back, and I didn't want to go too far without mentioning this. You talked about the inside joke and taking it viral. If you're not sexy and you're ugly, sort of like what I do.
You're ugly
Marty.
too.
No, I'm not saying you're ugly.
You're really ugly.
What-
You're uglier than me.
The industry I work in is boring. It's copyright. It's copyright monitoring. It's copyright policing. And again, if I'm going off topic, I can maybe chat later on. But can social media make somebody ugly sexy?
Listen, there are no boring products, only boring marketers. I don't mean that about you.
Don't put Marty.
I don't mean that about
Don't
you.
put Marty.
There are no boring. Listen. Hell yeah, sexy is the idea and not the product, man.
Ever bought a blender?
Does it want to be
Yeah.
sexy,
Yeah.
or does it need to be better understood?
Listen, if you're selling snow to an Eskimo, right? Then you have to go, well, my snow is red. Dude, chicks dig red snow in Eskimo now. It's like there's a great idea for everything, and at root, marketing, that part has nothing to do with social media or search or anything. It's existed since the Mad Men days. It's like there are truly, and I don't mean that in any kind of way, but there are no boring products. Like when I had a beautiful 25-year career as a musician, and you know what? I
With hair down here, by the way.
I played in stadiums and I made dog food commercials, right? They both rocked. Like they just both bow wow, man. Bow wow. Hey, I wanna say a tool because I think there's a really important point to make here. So we use a lot of tools, but my favorite and the most indispensable tool that I use every day for social media is Google.com. In particular, the ;operator, Facebook.com/video quote keyword close quote. Like, do you know that there is no place to search Facebook videos or Facebook notes except using Google? Because there is no place in Facebook to find that, and very few tools do that. They take the public objects from Facebook, and at the end of all of this, what I want to do is I want to find a relevant conversation with users who make a difference, and then I want to participate in conversations so they like me, because the best way to get people to like you is to do things that people like, and the best way to make friends is to be friendly, right? So if I'm looking for relevant conversations, then the tools that are available to me don't do a great job of delivering me timely conversations centered on themes. Try this sometime. Try search in Google, Facebook.com /video November comments Syrah. And you will find all the Facebook videos from the month of November that have plural comments, right? And they're talking about Syrah. There's I'll point you to an article about it. Actually,
We just have time for one question. So Judith, we got a question coming through.
Yeah.
Get it up on the screen.
So this is directed to either Sean or Michael. Sean paid me to ask a question to him.
Oh, okay.
So
see, buying retweets, buying engagement. Yeah.
you talk about measurements and the fact that people don't spend enough time looking at their analytics. And one of the experiences that I've had when I worked with the agency is clients don't know what results and insights they want to action. And so to me, you could get phone books of insights, whether they're positive or negative, but if you don't know what you're, A, what you want to action, and B, what you're actually capable of actioning, then you're not going to go, you're not going to get anywhere. So what are your suggestions, recommendations to your clients, to your colleagues, when they're working on social, to understand how to action the results and the measurements that you guys are able to pull out?
That is a very good question. You're like now client side for what, 3 weeks now? So it's a very opportune one question, I guess, as well. Few things. First of all, everybody has performance reviews if you're in a corporation. At most, you're going to be pretty much monitored by 4 or 5 key metrics. So it's like any more than that, and you're drowning in it. So what are the key 4 or 5 things that you should be measuring is key. And then a lot of times, can you get at that stuff, right? Sometimes within social media, you can't get at that stuff. So once again, rolling around. Really, really important. Best piece of advice I can give you in terms of metrics. There are 3 different reasons why you want to chase metrics as a client. One of them is it's true business. I want to evaluate how I'm doing as a performance. You know, this is my yearly review, this is my annual report, I got to evaluate. Second is analysis. I truly want to figure out on a day-to-day basis how I'm going to improve my business. I forget about like what I have to report. I just got to improve myself. The last one, and I think it happens more frequently than not, and I hate when it happens, somebody asks you to go chase something because they're resistant to what you're trying to do. And you spend 3 months trying to figure out how the heck are you going to measure this thing when you really should have called their bluff in the first meeting saying, look, you know what, why are we asking that question? And you realize it's going to take us $25,000 to answer that question. So are we prepared to actually go down that road? So those are 3. Analyzing why you're being asked to measure something is really important too. You got anything, Mike?
I will. I'll take a stab at that. So, look, the social stuff is all kind of new, relatively new, and it's online, and therefore it's questionable and suspect. needs to be scrutinized, and it's full of kids, and therefore questionable and suspect and needs to be scrutinized. There is no more scientific, proven methods of measuring the impact of advertising or PR or direct mail than there are for social media. You know, we're all making this crap up as we go along, and advertisers and marketers, we have been doing so for 100 years. I sat behind a bus on the way in this morning, and it had a big poster on the back that said, "You just proved transit advertising works." No, I fucking didn't. I just read an ad.
F word.
I didn't do anything based on that ad. I didn't take any action. So put that all to one side for a second, and let's get over ourselves and get over the issue of whether or not it's very difficult to measure. You're right that a lot of clients and their agency providers are not very good at figuring out what sort of insights they should be looking for, what kind of levers they might be able to move. Which is why I think, to give some actual useful advice, and not just keep swearing, it's why, I'm Irish, I can't help it, why I think with any measurement dashboard, any analytics approach you put together, the first thing you do is you collect data and read the data and think about the data for a couple of months to discern what it is that you can learn that might be of meaning and value to your specific business, your specific kind of organization. Then once you've done that for a couple of months, you regroup and say, right, now let's set some goals around this. When we do this thing, this seems to happen. And we like what happens when this happens online. It gives us a warm feeling, or people come into our stores, or more traffic goes to our website, or people buy stuff. So let's see if we can set a goal against this thing to generate more of those things. And that's going to be specific to every kind of business.
Michael, I'm sorry to cut you off, because we're going to be doing something special in the next session. I want to thank everybody. Now,
Also, we're not special.
Yeah, no, we're doing something technically a little special. Now, we had 3 questions from what I have. We had Judith, we had Sam in the back, and Sean. So Marty graciously is donating a copy of the book. So we're going to go starting with Sean, and a round of applause if you thought his question was best. We'll go to Judith, we'll go to Sam. We'll start here in the corner. Round of applause. Come on, you got to give him something. Judith for challenging on the thing. And then Sam for the prop in the back. Judith, congratulations. By the way, there's their Twitter handles. You should be following all of these guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. I'll let you hand that. Now we're going to be starting our next session on local, mobile, and social. Now, give me a minute because the session was originally supposed to be moderated by Todd Tweedy. Due to health reasons, he couldn't attend, but we're bringing him in by Skype. So we're going to take a minute to get him in here on Skype and keeping our fingers crossed that all technology works. So as everyone's starting to wander back in, we're going to start moving because we do have